Welcome to Just One Thing, the real estate podcast where we cut the noise and get to the good stuff. I'm your host, Chaya Klein with One Real Estate. Each episode, I sit down with a guest who knows their field inside and out to talk about things most people wish they understood before diving into real estate or business decisions. Whether you're buying, selling, leasing, renovating, or just trying to figure it all out, this show is here to give you the clarity, insight, and confidence you need to take the next step. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Just One Thing. I'm Chaya Klein, and today's conversation is one I've genuinely been looking forward to because it touches on something I think happens a lot today to highly skilled professionals. The moment where being good at what you do is no longer enough by itself. Today's guest, Jon Porter from CARR Healthcare Real Estate, specializes in healthcare commercial real estate, working with doctors, dentists, medical practices, and healthcare providers as they navigate some of the biggest business decisions they'll ever make. Expanding, relocating, opening practices, growing teams, taking on larger commitments, trying to figure out not just how to be great at medicine, but how to actually build something sustainable around it. And what fascinated me about Jon's background is that he sits in a very unique position. He's not just doing real estate transactions, he's seeing ambition, pressure, growth, risk, and lots of decision making. Jon, I am so excited to have you here.
Kai, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I would love to hear first a little bit about your background. How did you get here?
Yes, great question. For many years, almost 20 years, I was a strength and conditioning coach. So I've always been in the health and wellness world. I own gyms and I worked with athletes at the highest level and executives. About 5 years ago, I had the opportunity to kind of jump over and transition to this next chapter of life and getting involved in healthcare real estate. My managing broker, Brian Madden, kind of opened up the territory for CARR back in like 2017, I believe. So he was running PA and Jersey. Mm-hmm. He brought me in for Jersey and I hit the ground running and haven't looked back since.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you already have existing relationships or how did you go about it?
Yeah, so our whole business is referral based. The rub, obviously is that we work tenant buyer side with doctors. So, I've always found that once you do well by a client with the docs, get them up and running, they love to refer.
Yeah.
And that's how we built our whole brand.
Yeah.
Grassroots level. And like you said, dental, medical, like we do all the verticals, anything in the health and wellness space. We work on the doctor's behalf to get them up and running.
Yeah. So actually the way we met is we got to do a lease together.
Right. Yeah.
Where you represented a fabulous dentist.
Right.
And we were representing the landlord.
Yep.
And it was great doing a transaction with you.
It was awesome. Yeah. No, and it was it was very enjoyable, like building that bridge because like all deals, there's a lot of ins and outs to it.
Yep.
And it was really enjoyable to work with you guys through the whole process. And it's going to be a great opportunity for the doc. I think the biggest thing that I love with this space and what I do, it's really fun to meet doctors and hear about their vision. Mm-hmm. Like, what do they want? What's their brand? How do they want to have their practice? Whether it's a single practice, whether they want to have multiple practices. I love being able to go from inception and talking it through and then bringing it to reality. That's a really fun adventure for me. And it's really unique.
So before we get into the process of getting a doctor a location or growing their locations, you mentioned that you have a background in, did you say fitness?
Yeah. Yep.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Are you into fitness? Are you still into fitness? Give us a little bit of that.
I have
background.
2 teenage sons, so I think it's a prereq. I better be, I got to still, stay on top of it.
You have to be able to keep up.
Yeah, right.
So do you still own gyms?
No.
That was a past life.
Correct. Yeah. I still work out.
You see a difference in people who work out and who don't work out?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The discipline of working out it's really important. I think, especially in this world, like in the commercial real estate world, it gets super stressful, right?
Brutal.
And people outside of it don't even know. It's hard to explain that. But for me, it's like, I got to check that box every morning. And I have a pretty structured routine. At this stage of the game, I'm 47. So it's like right in that middle phase where we go snowboarding a lot in the wintertime, surfing in the summertime. I work out. I do jujitsu 3 times a week.
Wow.
So it's fun.
So you keep fit?
Yes, very much.
And you seem to feel that it helps you with your daily structure.
For sure. For focus, And for me, it's like to help mitigate that stress and help really dial in, on the day to day. For us, there's so many actionable items on every deal. And with that pipeline, when things are busy, you need to be organized and be able to focus and be able to handle the stress.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's, without stress, you can't make diamonds. And we all know that, but it's easier said than done.
I love that concept.
Right.
It's so true.
I think for me, it's unique because for doctors, right? If you have docs that has spent 10 years in school, right? They haven't had a single business class more often than not. So
I want to actually talk about that a little bit.
In my life, you really have to work as being like a steward of the deal. And really
consultant, almost like a business consultant.
Without a doubt, right? So it's how do you get them lined up with the right lenders for the projects that can vary differently depending whether it's a lease, a purchase, lease renewal, things of that nature. And then really trying to usher it along. You're playing quarterback from the beginning and then putting them with the right GCs, the right equipment guys, the right lawyers, the right IT guys. So understanding the ins and outs, I really made it a point to educate myself on what the doctors require. What does that build out look like? It's very different from a pediatric dentist to an ophthalmologist, right? So like understanding what are the different variables that go into it, what is their overall vision, and then hitting the ground running and being able to put that all together for the docs.
Yeah. I see the biggest challenge with medical professionals specifically is that they are not business owners. They're very good at what they do.
Exactly.
But they're not business owners. And most of them don't think like a business owner.
And I think to that point, they deal in millimeters. Like everything is very granular and they're hyper focused on things and helping them understand the big picture, especially of like business ownership. Because at the end of the day, no one wants to be an associate for their whole life, right? So helping them, really it's encouraging them and helping them have the courage to make that jump. Because it can be scary. Yeah. But we like to provide the resources that are needed to help bridge that gap and get them running.
Yeah. I always tell tenants when they're telling me that it's so much more expensive or how are they going to take on this big overhead, but they really need it. But they really, really need it. Right. I always say it's growing pains. It hurts, but you got to do it.
Without a doubt. Yes, there has to be some skin in the game with it. If it was easy, everyone would have a practice, right? And I think that's part of it. And the fun thing going back to the fitness world, in 2026, I think a lot more people are cognizant of taking care of their body. So it's fun with the docs. A lot of them do work out. Do you think so? You're just
involved more in that?
I don't know. It's just like a lot of the docs that I work with, like they do engage in some sort of sport, whether it's a recreational athlete or they work out. Yeah. So we're able to develop a pretty good bond that way. Like I'll work out with some of the docs sometimes here and there.
That's
so
awesome.
It's fun to
open up a doctor's gym.
Right. So
good way to get business.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That it is.
What do you think is something that some of these doctors get blindsided by or they're not familiar with? What do you see? Is there like a running theme of something that they didn't expect when they're taking out a space?
I think that one is the timeline of how things work. I think it's usually either like doctors want it right now or they delay so long that the decision gets made for them. Right. So understanding the cadence of how the deals work. And also too, understanding that every deal is unique. And just because something happens in Lawrenceville doesn't mean that's going to happen in Princeton or happen in Haddonfield. So understand that every market condition is different, but we're able to work our way through the hurdles and we were able to show them what's the best deal for them in any particular domain, right? Right. I think with docs, it's easy to overwhelm them. So
for sure.
So it's.
I think that goes back to the idea that they're very good at what they do, but they're not necessarily business owners.
And they had to always be in control. Like when you're in the medical world, you need to be on point. And I think it can be somewhat daunting initially when you go into the deep zone of the pool. Like you don't know what you don't know. And almost every commercial transaction is unknown. So how can you break down the barriers? I think that's one of the bigger hurdles. And the really good docs get it quicker and you get them up and running. Right.
Well, not that they're necessarily really good doctors. They're just better at business.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes you have somebody and it's just amazing to see that they really are good at what they do. And yet when it comes to something that is not within their box of what they're skilled at, it's almost comical.
Yes.
Well, especially what stresses them out.
Right. And you never know what it's going to be until it happens. And I think I could probably write a coffee table book, as could you, based upon the different reactions that occur on the same thing, Yeah, so I think the more you're in the game, the more you just see it and kind of anticipate what's going to happen down the road. But you control what you can control. And outside of that, that's all you can do.
Have you ever had a really funny story or something that came up that just off the top of your head, like blew your mind, that it was even a question or it was even a concern from one of the doctors?
I feel like every week I could probably have like a best
Couple
of.
stories.
Yeah, like I feel like you almost have to give me a topic because every week it's like something different,
Yeah.
Doctors, it's funny how they do have good senses of humor. It's usually tucked away, but once you can tap into it. I had a pediatric dentist from Brooklyn that got into stand-up comedy because
No way.
but he reminded me very much of Mark Normand, like his delivery, his countenance, even the way he looks. And I was like, I floated the idea. I'm like, Steve, like, you ever think about doing stand-up comedy? And he gave it a shot, like at an open mic, and like turned out like he absolutely loves it. Like it was like one of those things that you would never really anticipate, but those are the types of fun things that happen, Yeah, it's just, there's always light moments, I think, every week. And I feel very fortunate to kind of fallen into this track because for what we do, you're always going to need doctors, right? You're always going to need to go in person to see someone. And it's been really fun to get like great docs locations and then be able to refer my family and be able to have those relationships. I think it comes down to that.
And if you ever need them, you have their cell numbers.
Without a doubt, right? Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm sure that comes in handy.
And with
sometimes.
two teenage boys, there's always like chipped teeth. There's always stitches.
Yeah.
So knock on wood.
It's nice to know you have that back.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Like, that's something there. So
what's like a hidden cost or something that a doctor wouldn't anticipate?
I think from the overall picture, right? So behind payroll, like your real estate expense is your second highest cost in any practice, right? I think, especially right now, there's a lot better options in a majority of markets in the leasing world. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of doctors are learning is how the structure of the lease works, right? So more often than not, we see a triple net lease, which I think a lot of times doctors don't necessarily understand at first, where you have the price per square foot and then you have taxes, insurance, common area maintenance. Those numbers are added together. And I think that a lot of times doctors, that's an educational process to understand, when you're looking at it, right? That's how it works as opposed to a modified gross. That being said, it's kind of like one of those chicken or the egg things where what we see now is the majority of the best properties are in a leasing situation and it is that triple net. And so helping the doctors understand what's your effective rent overall and understanding how does that fit in with the budget. And that's kind of where we come into play with the banks. We partner a lot with Bank of America, Huntington, and Provide. Those are the three biggest medical lenders in our state. We work with all the banks, but those are the top three. And then sometimes Live Oak will get involved if there's hair on a deal or we need to get alternative financing. They'll come in and work with those three. But really helping docs prepare themselves and understand what is the overall budget. Because a lot of times they don't understand what to tie the number to. And it just becomes big or small, based upon unreality. So the more we're able to educate them on the beginning and show them what is the overall market. And we always negotiate on multiple properties.
Right.
You can kind of see, you compare apples to apples. And at the end of the day, the docs are always able to make educated decisions, which is empowering to a doctor, right? Yeah. That they can ultimately decide, but we're able to show them what does everything look like at the base level and help them choose which path to go.
What about the cost of actually fitting out the space?
Oh, that's really important.
How does the cost of fitting out a space for a medical tenant as opposed to a professional office?
Yeah,
What's the difference?
I have to defer to you on the professional office. I always heard that was like $70, but I think that's it's like over 100 now from what I hear.
So it depends on the fit out. It's not over 100. We're probably closer to the 70, a little less for regular professional office.
Right.
But in terms of the actual fit out.
Right, yeah. So that's the biggest cost. Once you do get the space, building it out. For the dental world, you have to obviously trench the ground to put the water pipes in. There's a certain subset of electricals, like the electric, HVAC, sewer, and water, all have to meet certain criteria. In terms of numbers specifically, we only work with medical specific contractors. One is going to ensure that you get a quality product and it's going to get done correctly.
Right.
Every time people go off the reservation, and I have a case record of that happening when I first got into the game, it never ends well.
Right.
Like the third party stuff or the handyman that does the bathroom renovations, no, we're going to find the best contractor with the best work and the best price. Right. In terms of that, in this area, we're looking at anywhere from $175 to $210 a square foot. Those are very realistic numbers. Obviously, you can up the finishes and go higher than that, but I kind of ballpark about $185.
Is the dental fit out the most expensive fit out from all the doctors that you've worked with? For sure. Yeah. From equipment wise, some of the surgery centers, that will start to really drive up costs. But from the pure build out, the dental it is expensive. Right.
But that's why it kind of comes back to the beginning where you look at, you want to find the right place initially, Because if you're going to spend more than $500,000 on a space,
Yeah.
you're not going to move.
You want it to be the
right.
Yeah.
And that's, you were instrumental in helping that deal get done where you were able to get a tenant improvement allowance, right? To help offset that build out. Because it is a relationship, right? It's a marriage. We want to have a long-term productive relationship by being able to be in the right place. And landlords appreciate the fact that the default rate in medical is less than 0.5%.
Right.
Right. Vet and chicken farms. So like those are the three.
What was the other one?
Chicken farms.
Chicken farms.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
That's like a fun fact.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, fun fact for the day. Chicken farms are a good tenant.
They never go out of business.
They never go out of business.
They never default.
I guess you always need eggs.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And chickens. And once they're done laying eggs.
I hear.
Yeah.
Well, around here, the chicken farms get bought up and we develop the properties.
Right. Then it turns into, right.
So I guess that's why I didn't know that fun fact. But
I've been amazed, honestly, like about how much building's gone on like in this area.
yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It's pretty cool. Back 20 years ago, we were coming up here to like the blue call
Back
games.
7 years ago, this place was just trees.
Yeah, no, that's
not even going 20
right.
years ago,
Yeah,
just 7 years
like
ago.
it's really fun to watch like the growth of the Jackson, Lakewood,
Yeah.
Hal area. It's
pretty crazy.
It's really fun.
It is pretty crazy.
And that's what we're seeing too, like for us, like dealing with docs. Everyone's coming down from Brooklyn and settling in Manalapan, right?
Yeah.
That area. But then we're seeing everything from like Asbury Park all the way down to Cape
Yeah.
May at the shore. Like it's ripe for the picking. So
Yeah,
it's
for sure. There's so many people that are moving here.
right.
And I don't think that the medical professionals can keep up.
No, and that's where we're at, that impasse right now.
Yeah.
Especially since the pandemic, a lot more people realize they could work remotely.
Yeah.
You have a lot more people that came down to the shore. It's a better quality of life, I think, than living, in certain packed parts of the city or parts of the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about the decisions that these doctors are making and how you're watching them. I know we a little bit discussed the numbers and stuff, but are most of them, do you find that they're logical? Are they making emotional decisions? When they call you and they say they want to open another location and they want to move, how do you find that these decisions are coming about?
The second location is about 300% easier than the first one.
Yep.
If you have a doc that wants to scale their business, everyone's going to cut their teeth on that first deal because it is hard. It's like drinking from a fire hose. And the last 2 weeks are always going to be a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Then you get the deal done and everyone forgets. The deal gets done, right? It's just the stress. But I think all commercial deals require a little bit of that friction. Once that first deal gets done and docs understand that they can do it, I think a lot of it comes down to courage. It's scary. Right?
It is scary.
And it's not about being less fearful. I don't try to mitigate fear. Fear is normal and it's healthy to have. So is anxiety. Anxiety makes you move, do things, right? The biggest thing is having more courage, right? And that's, I think, where we kind of come into play. And we know the more you do it, what's going to make a phenomenal office space for a doctor, right? We're able to help set the table, so to speak, and help allow them to grow and to understand that they are capable of doing this.
Yeah. Them that confidence.
Without a doubt. I can't undersell that enough. Once you get that first one open, number 2 and number 3, like get
it's
them
that
done.
initial pulling of the trigger.
Yeah.
That's really
right. And then you can see the deal. Because I think at first there's so much information coming in and a scientific mind wants to be able to compute and organize every one of them. And at the end of the day, it's just too much to understand, right? We know there's like 19 major bullet items in an LOI that we negotiate on behalf of the docs that will clean it up and give you the best lease out there, or purchase sale agreement, which is even easier. But once you're able to get them on the road and understand the hierarchy of things and what's the most important and kind of let them be in control and be the driver of that, you're in a really good position.
Yeah. So you mentioned to me that you have 2 boys.
Yep.
How do you take some of the lessons that you see out there and give it over to your boys?
Yeah, you got to work hard and you got to do stuff you hate. I think I still do that to this day. Every day I do something I don't want to do.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think anything that anyone is doing, you're not going to love every aspect of it.
Right. And it's
that's pretty much impossible.
I've been very fortunate to meet people who are way more accomplished than I am. And they've kind of always taken me under their wing and taught me a lot. You need to step outside that comfort zone. And you had to really put yourself in a position of figuring it out. The world's wide open. You can make whatever you want out of it.
You did a pretty big switch when you went from your gyms to real estate.
Yeah, it was. And it was like a scary, I left a great.
Not just a natural
right.
switch.
It was a bit clunky at first. And I think like anything you do, and I always preach this to my sons, whenever you do something new, you're going to be awful at it. I think a lot of times kids think you have to be excellent and be able to ace it right off the bat. And I think I've shown them that it's okay to fail. You're going to mess up. You make mistakes, but that's how you learn. Like
Yeah.
if you don't make mistakes, you're not
You don't
learning
learn
anything.
from your wins. You learn from your, from your failures.
And I think like as a parent, like you want to always try to protect them, and especially when they're growing up. But like now that my sons are in teenage years, late teens, we work out together. They are able to see my wins. I share with them something that went sideways so they see the realistic picture.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really important to understand and pursue your passions, continue to grow yourself. I think that's big. My kids have really gotten into reading. So it's funny, we'll read books and exchange them with each other, which
that's fun.
As a dad, like I don't know if that happens that often, but
right.
I'm lucky with that. I think that we're able to connect, you know, I think that's important as a parent.
And what successful patterns would you say you see in some of these people that you get to work with? You said that you work with people that are better in different industries than you are.
Yeah.
And you have that. So is there like a pattern of what you see in some of these successful people besides for working out every day?
Yeah, no, I think that they're balanced. Like they're able to, that graph, like that pie graph, they have phenomenal balance in their life. Like they're firmly rooted, they're spiritual people, any religion, it doesn't really matter. As long as you have that spiritual component, a healthy relationship with your significant other, your kids, and work comes after that.
Yeah.
And if you had things like in the right like order, the world kind of flows. And I find that sometimes I'll try to bite off more like I chew and work even harder, but it bites back at you, you know? So really sticking to the game plan and being consistent. I think it's a lot of things that are boring to talk about. Consistency is beautiful.
You may think it's boring, but people love to hear the boring part. You'd be surprised because they think, like they look at you and they say like, wow, you're working with all these medical professionals. It seems so glamorous. I know that there's so much grit that goes into it. And people don't really understand that part. And I think they find it very interesting, actually, that there is so much of the non-glamorous, for a better term, that goes into it to really make it happen.
Yeah.
And that you're saying that it's a balance. It's interesting because as a mother, people ask me all the time, how do you balance it? There really isn't a great balance.
Right.
There isn't.
Well, especially as a mom, like you guys have it even harder than dads.
It's not like I can say like, oh, wow, like my life is perfectly balanced. There isn't. No. Sometimes I'm fully here. Sometimes I'm fully there. And sometimes I'm fully nowhere.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And like also how to be nice to yourself. I think that's also a part of it too. Cause I think sometimes, especially if you're wired to want to achieve that, sometimes you're going to be almost your worst enemy.
Yeah.
And that's very counterproductive to talk negatively about yourself because it doesn't help anything. And that's something that I've really learned to overcome as I've gotten older. I used to think it was motivational. I realized it really wasn't that motivational.
Yeah.
So just how to keep it moving and be more positive. There's so much beauty in life. I think that that's huge. And I think you need to focus on moving towards the high goal. Like that's what I talk to my kids about. I don't care what it is.
Just pick something big.
Pick something out. And sometimes too, like when it comes to goal setting specifically, set the bar a little bit lower. Because a lot of times with kids in particular, I feel like they set like this like ridiculously high goal that's like almost impossible to chip away at right now, you know? And I think sometimes that with my sons, I've really worked on what's a good like goal setting, you know, like how do you do that? I think for boys too, like they need to have like a certain amount of structure with things and be able to have something to aim towards. Because if not, like boys are idiots and they'll do, well, you know, they go off the reservation multiple times a day. Like so we're just trying to keep the train on the tracks.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think like one little tip in on that is kids, like, you know, you might spend 10 hours to get 2 good minutes, but like those 2 minutes are so good that that's all that matters. You know what I mean? And like, I think that that's something that, you know, the magic's in the work. Like you just got to keep doing it, keep going. And
do you have anybody specifically that you look up to or you listen to or that helps you, motivates you, or you just work out?
No,
that's a motivation in its own.
Nah, I've always got a good group of people I like to work out with. Like I have friends and guys I train with a lot. I like to read a lot. Like motivational wise, I've always made it a point to find people who are better at me at something and learn from them. I think that that's, so I could give you 1,000 names and I've had 1,000 great interactions with people that really help me get better. I think that that's something you got to pay it forward to. You know what I mean? As I've matured and got a little older, I see guys who are in their late 20s and you can spot them. Yeah. And you want to give back. Cause like there's no sense in holding it for yourself. You know, I think that we have way more in common than we don't have in common right, with other people. And I think it's important to be able to give back and help other people become better without asking for anything in return. I just think that's important.
Yeah. Let's go back for just a moment to the practices that come to you that they're looking for another location or to expand. So have you ever come across a practice where you told them now is not the right time? It was a red flag or something that came up that you said, like, get something in order first, or maybe you shouldn't be doing this. This is not your personality.
Yeah, it usually would come down to a property that was a purchase property that just had hair on it. That the doc fell in love with that location, but didn't want to see the real picture. There was one time where we had a building in Cherry Hill, great visibility on a major thoroughfare, but there was just way too much hair around the structure of the building, like the roof, all of that. And it was way overpriced. And I remember I did have a serious conversation with the doc because he was flush with cash and he could buy it. But just because you could buy it
doesn't mean it's a good idea.
And we're like, it just, the build out was going to be wild. You know, it was going to be way more than that 200 a square. And I knew that we needed to just hang in there a little bit longer because I knew that there was going to be some opportunity. And luckily the doctor listened because we were able to find another property like 6 months later, and he's ecstatic on location number 3. So I make it a point to do what's best for the doc, even if it's going to not be good.
Cost you for
right, sure. Because
it's about the relationship in the long run.
And like, you know, I think the more you do this, I always compare it to when I was training back in the day. Like you can identify someone's strengths and weaknesses and you want to make them better as a whole. When I see a doc and learn about their practice and what they want to do with it, I get all the info I need and I can really become an expert space finder based upon their criteria. It's not what I want, it's what they want. And I think as I've been doing this longer, I'm a trusted confidant now where docs understand, oh, okay, I do understand what you're saying now. And it's usually always after the fact, but we've been able to string together a lot of great projects that way. So it's like the track record kind of speaks for itself. I've always been a fan of growing it too organically, where if I see a doc that is struggling in a similar scenario as another doc I've done a deal with, I like to connect them, even if it could be a pediatrician and an orthodontist. It doesn't really matter about the specialty, but just to be able to connect a doc who has done it, I find that goes a long way.
Yeah, because they can kind of speak the same language much more than you can speak that language. Yeah.
You know, I'm a little bit scientific, but you know, the other 95%, I'm not there. So,
right. Do you ever hear from people and you tell them, I don't think now is the right time for you to either go on your own or open another practice?
It's usually the opposite of that. I feel like a lot of times doctors will always wait for the right time, like air quotes.
Right.
And we all know how that works. Like,
there is no
the
right
only
time.
thing that happens is 5 years goes by and now you have kids in middle school and it's going to be even harder to free up the time to do the startup. That's usually what I see in the startup world, is waiting for the absolute perfect alignment of everything. And that's a hurdle where doctors will think about the idea of doing a startup, and it can sometimes take 9 months, 12 months, 16 months, even before that comes to fruition. And they always say the same thing, like, I wish I had just started this when I talked to you originally. And but like, I can't, you know.
There's so many people that tell me like, why didn't you push me 5 years ago to do X, Y, and Z or buy this? And I'm like, because at that time you were adamant you weren't ready. But at the end of the day, I would say 90% of people do not look back and regret the decisions that they made when they made it. It was just scary. And like you said, it just took the courage at that point.
Right. You're hitting it right on the head with that. For us, in terms of financing with docs, there's never been a better time for a doc to do a startup. Like, so
can we talk about the financing piece a little bit?
Yeah.
So to explain to our listeners what it means for a doctor to get financed. What exactly does it mean? Because in a typical lease, no one is financing any part of your lease.
Yeah. So I'm a very atypical candidate on this one. So almost everything we do is fully financed through one of the major lenders. For example, Bank of America, they pioneered the medical lending blueprint. So they're pretty much the gold standard. Mm-hmm. They have a startup product for doctors who are associates that looking to open up their first practice.
What do they offer when you say a startup product? What does that usually
so
include?
It depends on financials. Typically, we're looking at a $900 to $1 million loan.
Does it cover specifically the build out? Does it cover the rent?
It'll cover
whatever they want.
Yeah, they're able to use it for whatever they need it for. They'll also have an SBA component depending on financing for her purchase as well. Mm-hmm. And there's all sorts of parameters that play into it, right? So between the banks, between Bank of America, Huntington, and Provide, we're able to connect the docs with the greatest amount of lending capital. And depending on what they're looking to do, whether it's land for a ground up construction project, a purchase project, or a lease product, we're kind of able to shop all of that around. And
what's usually the best deal for these doctors? I mean, where do they get the highest?
The answer is it depends, but more often than not, like if you're doing a startup, you're probably going to be doing a lease just because of the amount that a purchase property would run you. Right. More often than not, if we're looking for a purchase, all things being equal, for a typical doctor's office, you're looking anywhere between 900 to 1.5. So for a doc that has six figures in student loans, it's usually hard to swing. Not impossible,
right.
But for a doc who's looking for a second location, a purchase is a great option. If you're able to own the real estate, it works out really well.
Right.
So the bank's able to kind of look at the finances of the current state of the practice. How does it cash flow? And then help the doc, figure out, is the leasing the best way to get you open or the purchase option?
Is there like a specific amount that they make the doctor put down, or?
So it depends. That's a great question. So that's going to depend on the bank itself. They're wildly different products. More often than not, it's usually about 10% of the purchase price and then 10% of the build out price.
Interesting.
So that's where it can kind of get a little funky, because especially if you're buying a 5,000 square foot building, that build out is going to be close to $1 million. Right. So, that's where it starts to run.
So typically, let's just say dentist is buying a 5,000 square foot building. They would get 90% of the financing on something like that.
Correct. Yep.
So it's like a regular SBA loan, but they'll also do it towards the fit out.
Yeah. And they have traditional, there's a lot of obviously if you don't have to use the SBA, it's going to be better. So a lot of the more seasoned docs will be able to do it traditionally because it cash flows.
Right.
And you get to a point where you can almost eyeball it and tell, when the doc's financials, will this work traditional or SBA?
And traditional, they don't have to put down more?
Correct.
They would also only have to put down 10%.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A lot of times.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then there's certain products where they have a percentage where there's nothing down at all. Huntington Bank has a product like that right now.
Is their interest so much higher or not necessarily?
No, it's
a
graduated product. And it's we were doing it. We have a land project we're doing. So it's going to be interest only on the land until they start building. But it's like a beautiful program for what the doc needs. And that a lot of times all the lenders are very good at customizing the product based upon what you do need.
So it's not just the specific
right. Yeah. So it's not
program that they offer. It's
exactly not
customized per person.
And so a doctor can really be in the driver's seat with that and feel great about what the overall numbers are, and knowing that they can make their monthly nut and be in a good position with their CPA at the end of the year.
Interesting.
Part of the vendor network that we have, besides the lenders, the GCs and the equipment guys, we do have a strong group of CPAs and financial wealth planners that we work with, and lawyers as well. And what that does, especially with the CPAs, they know the numbers inside and out. And when it comes time to growing the business, we all get together. It's a collaborative effort. So they always weigh on it as well. So it helps me identify the best solutions.
It makes your job easier.
For sure. And you know exactly there's no guesswork. We know hey, if I find you this, we're going to be good,
Right.
So.
Right. That's great.
Yeah. So I guess going back to the sports thing, it's very much a teamwork situation. We all work together for the doc. And I think doctors do appreciate that.
Yeah. And I can see where that also makes your timeline much shorter, because you're all on the same page. You're all working towards a common goal.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, time is the most valuable commodity too. So if you're able to save a doc 200 hours on a project, that's real savings. And we're able to show them, besides that, just getting up and running and being able to get these great properties that they wouldn't have been able to find on their own. That's really fun and rewarding at the end of the day.
Yeah. What was the funkiest lease or sale you've ever done?
We had a really good one where it's a general dentist. She had outgrown her space. And a lot of times that's where it usually comes into play. There has to be enough friction to decide to do something. And this doc had about 4.5 years remaining on her lease. General dentist, very strong. She ended up buying a property. And then we found an orthodontist to backfill her space.
Nice.
For that 4.5 year term. And it's in a market that's super tight. It's very small, Main Street USA type of town, where there's no inventory for this orthodontist to open up to begin with. So we were able to fit it together in a way that everyone's timeline worked out. It's one of those things that'll probably never happen again. But
nice when it happens.
Yeah, but when it does, it's it's like playing Tetris. You got the 4 lines in a row and you're good. That was a fun one because it's essentially 2 deals, and to do it at the same time and keep everyone on board, that was a real challenge, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But that's one where it worked out and everyone got what they wanted. So that was really fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's one thing that you want to leave our listeners with, what would that be?
I think it's important to pay it forward. I've been really on that road recently. It's something that was instilled in me when I was younger, but you never know what good can come out of that. by putting someone else on, helping someone else out. Pay it forward. That's my breakaway.
That's awesome. That's really, you're on to the next chapter.
That's it.
That's where you're headed.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a really nice piece to leave everybody off with.
All right.
Thank you for coming on.
Hi, thank you so much.
And sharing so much of your expertise in both business with your doctors and the leasing and the sales and just in life in general.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode of Just One Thing. If you've learned something new, feel a little more informed, or know someone who definitely needs to hear this, pass it on. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. We've got more great conversations coming your way. One topic, one expert, one thing at a time. Until then, keep learning, keep asking questions, and remember, it only takes one thing.